This lady's life was stolen by her husband in broad daylight on a busy high street in front of their baby. Oh, hi there, stranger. As some of you may know, this October I'm going to be sharing with you some awful and harrowing cases centred around DV. This is to raise awareness and funds for Refuge, the UK's leading charity in helping women and children escape domestic abuse. The link to my fundraiser is in my bio. Please donate if you can, and if you can't, no problem. Maybe give this video a like, share and all the stuff and help me raise awareness instead. So today I'm going to be telling you the tragic case of Kulsuma Akhtar. For your discretion as always is advised. Kulsuma was born on the 2nd of April 1997 in Bangladesh. She met and married her husband Habiba Rahman Massam in her home country and then accompanied him to the UK on his student visa in 2022. Habiba was due to start a marketing course at the University of Bedfordshire. Whilst Habiba settled temporarily in Burnley, Kulsuma stayed with her brother in Oldham, where she got a job at a bakery. Their relationship appears to have been somewhat tumultuous, as while she was in Oldham, Kulsuma blocked Habiba's number and this enraged him. On the 4th of August 2022, he bought a Sharp and went to look for her at her place of work, but she wasn't there, and so he stayed at the tram stop that was right opposite all day. He was found by police in what is described as a half-conscious state, but I have no further information on what caused him to be in that state, be it booze, substances or some other thing, I do not know. But he was taken to hospital where he admitted to staff that he had been having feelings of taking Kulsuma's life, that when they fought or had arguments that he had the want to take her life and or his own. He was told to visit his GP. He didn't do that, but honestly, strangers, what do we do with that? He openly told them he was thinking about killing his wife, and they were like, yeah, you should probably go to the doctors about that, mate. But like, he was already in hospital, so... After that incident, the couple had a marriage celebration on the 7th of September 2022. And from that point forward, they lived together in matrimony, the pair of them now in Oldham. I think it's fair to assume that things between the pair had not improved by the time of Kulsuma's pregnancy in January 2023. Habiba was very controlling of Kulsuma. He basically had her under lock and key. She had to ask her husband's permission to do anything, to leave the house, to see anyone, including her own family. He would check her phone incessantly, and if anything came through that he didn't like, there'd be hell to pay. There was a further incident in July of that same year when Kulsuma left their home believing that Habiba had divorced her by screaming talak at her 3 times. In traditional Islamic law, if a husband says, I divorce thee 3 times to his wife, that is an official divorce. And I don't know, please let me know in the comments if I'm wrong about this, but I'm assuming that talak means I divorce thee. So after the talak incident, Kulsuma left the home and went to stay with family, but again, Habiba just went mad about it. And he was calling her up and saying some really unhinged things, and again, talking about Sharps, to such an extent that Kulsuma's family were worried about her safety and Habiba's, and so they called police. By November of that year, Kulsuma had given birth to their child, a son. Around the 23rd of November, Kulsuma received a text message from a work colleague asking her if she was working. She was on maternity leave by now, though. Even so, the text message sent Habiba into a ferocious temper, and he slapped Kulsuma while she was holding their baby in her arms. He took a Sharp and held it to her throat. He told her he was going to take her life, and that she needed to tell him what the relationship was between her and the colleague that had sent the text. Kulsuma must have been absolutely terrified, but she did what she could and she locked herself in a bathroom and called the police. She believed him when he told her he was going to kill her. Such was her fear that she asked her sister-in-law if she would take care of Kulsuma's son if Habiba took her life. She said, quote, "You may find my dead body someday." After that domestic incident, Habiba was, of course, arrested. Kulsuma was finally able to make a plan for her safety, and she sought that safety in a refuge. and she settled in and made friends, and I can only imagine relaxed into her newfound freedom, the shackles of fear and control finally broken. Maybe she felt like she could finally breathe again. Kulsuma was doing everything she could. She was a very brave lady and she was making all the right moves. But just heartbreakingly, Kulsuma made a fateful decision to post a message from her phone. And by doing that, Habiba was able to track her location. He was really controlling, remember, so he'd been tracking her for a long time. He went to the refuge and he filmed the outside of the refuge and he sent her the video. The mental torture of her knowing that he knew where she was must have been so hard on her. A plan was made for Kulsuma to move into a different refuge, but she would never get that chance. Habiba just kept going back into Bradford and was repeatedly trying to lure Kulsuma out of the refuge. He bought a new phone with a different number and sent some pretty convincing text messages that said he was from the doctors and that the baby was due to have some jabs. He did not succeed in luring her out, so he tried a different tactic. He got his brother to lie to Kulsuma and tell her that Habiba was in Spain to make her feel safe. And on the 6th of April 2023, Kulsuma left the refuge with her baby and another resident, and they headed to the shops. Upon arrival, Kulsuma encountered Habiba coming out of the shop. Kulsuma immediately tried to head back to refuge, but Habiba now would not let her out of his sight and he stayed with her. At just gone 3 in the afternoon, they stopped outside a shop and Habiba pulled a sharp from his pocket and he stabbed his wife over and over again in full view of everyone on the street and, of course, their baby. He then stamped on Kulsuma and then slit her throat. Habiba then walked away, leaving his wife and barely glancing at his baby. Kulsuma's wounds were catastrophic and she lost her life. Habiba then made some pretty serious moves to try and leave the country, but unluckily for him, he suffered from lockjaw and he had an episode and needed medical attention. So he went for the treatment, and even though he'd given a false name and made efforts to disguise himself, he was arrested on the 9th of April. He, of course, tried to claim diminished responsibility on the grounds of severe depression, but this was rejected. He took a sharp to the scene and then used it to take Kulsuma's life, and so his starting point for sentencing was 25 years. But then, of course, taking into account the aggravating factors like stalking Kulsuma, the fact that she was in a refuge to keep her safe from him and that he'd broken his bail conditions going looking for her and terrorising her. He, of course, had previous arrests for DV against Kulsuma. He premeditated and planned this, and then he tried to get away. It was a lot. And so Habiba Masum was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 28 years. And strangers, even though I know it's not a crime to lie, I feel like Habiba's brother should have faced some consequences in this case. Because don't forget, Habiba had sent Kulsuma that video of the outside of the refuge. She knew that he was about and she was not leaving. No matter what he tried to do to lure her out, she was not leaving. But then, of course, Habiba's brother literally aided in luring Kulsuma out of the refuge. He lied by saying that Habiba was in Spain and essentially made her feel safe. And as far as I can tell in the research, he knew that it was a lie. But as far as I can see, nothing happened to him from it. And that is the awful case of Kulsuma Akhtar, who was just 27 years old when her life was stolen. May she rest in peace. And to you, stranger, as always, if you've stayed with me up until now, then thank you for watching, and I will see you for the next one.